Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Complex Like Wine, the podcast where we talk about complicated things and improve over time, just like wine does. This week, I'm excited for this episode. We have Marki. And before I get into how we met and everything, which I think is a pretty fun story, I'm going to go, of course, talk about this week's wine. And Marki on camera, she has some wine too with her.
I do. I have it in my cup, but I don't have the bottle. So
Oh, you're fine.
even asking my roommate, I'm like, tell me about this wine real quick, but I don't remember.
Oh, no, you're good. You're fine. All right, so if you're watching online, I'm holding the bottle up, and it's from Paso Robles by Yan Lu, and this is another Cabernet. And if you've tuned into previous episodes, she actually mentored under Sharon Weeks, which we've talked about twice, so I think that was pretty interesting. But how she describes the wine is a velvety punch of bold black cherry, dark plum, and a complex, long finishing that makes this one elegant Cabernet you can dive into any night of the week. Yen selects high-end grapes for this Cabernet from a pair of prestige vineyards in Paso Robles and gives your wine extra love in the cellar, including a generous bit of barrel aging in French oak. And so a little bit about Yan Lu. I hope I'm not butchering her name. So she spent years working as a banking loan officer in Manhattan, and she developed a passion for winemaking so strong she ended up leaving her MBA behind for a new grand adventure that started by leaving New York in Australia in 2010. And by 2011, she had made her first vintage, and she was hooked. And so I'm curious to see how this wine tastes. So cheers, Marki.
Cheers.
Okay, we're gonna taste it now. I like mine. How do you like yours?
Pretty good. I'll be honest, I'm not like the hugest fan of cabs, but it's all my roommate drinks, and I only drink wine with him, so I tend to only drink cabs. So I feel like I'm starting to kind of like them, but
Mm-hmm.
they kind of taste like straight alcohol to me. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm like, this is overwhelming, but this
Yeah.
one's pretty good actually. It's kind of sweet.
Oh, yeah. Cabs aren't my go-to. So sometimes I get the sense where the taste is maybe a bit drier than other wines I like, but this one's pretty good as well. Definitely, my boyfriend and I, we always like to say it hits the mid palate, and we're just dumb. We always like to make stupid jokes about how you can taste wine properly, but anyway, I digress.
Love that.
Yeah, and this week I usually have a glass of wine, but today I'm just very in the home cozy mood, so I just have a tumbler. And shout out to Mrs. Sheffers for getting matching ones with me, by the way, if you're watching. But so, how Marky and I met. If you know anything about EDM or the underground bass scene, we met at a desert event not too long ago.
Yes, at Lost and Found, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild one, not gonna lie, but it was really good.
Yeah, let's see, Lost and Found was my third one. So my first event was Vibey Desert last year, and I'm pretty hooked. Definitely gonna try to go to the next one.
Yeah, I don't know how to really like describe desert festivals. I mean, I know how to describe them. Obviously, it's in the desert. You know, you're in the middle of nowhere, no civilization in sight, and there's dust everywhere. And so like there's that aspect, but there's just like something about being out there that like creates like this sense of unity because it's like obviously we all packed up all of our stuff to go out there, and it's usually have to drive like a couple hours to get out there. So maybe that aspect really like helps with like the connection with people and the unity. But I really just feel like desert festivals, like there's just this energy in the air that makes people very high spirited, makes people more open to sharing experiences with others. I've always been a social butterfly. I love dancing. I love meeting new people. I love hanging out with my friends. But I know that there's not there's a lot of people out there who aren't like that, who are like homebodies. So it's awesome to meet different types of people at these events and like to hear people's past and to have people who are like, oh, I'm new to this, and or this is my first one, or oh, I don't really get out much, but I came out here. So it's really awesome to see that kind of energy out there as well. Just, I don't know, everybody coming together as a collective. I think it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I agree with my first one. I had no idea to what like to expect because I go to a bunch of festivals, go to the different venues or clubs in LA for EDM, and so my boyfriend showed me the underground bass music, and I was like, "Oh, I really like this." And so yeah, I think that like sense of unity and community because everyone just kind of hauls ass to the middle of nowhere just to enjoy music from sunset to sunrise. And everyone at the end is so tired, but it's really cool to see the people are still dancing for the sunrise set and like still going hard after, I don't know, maybe like 12 hours.
And I think that is that where we met was during the sunrise set, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it was during Eric's set, right?
Yeah, yeah. Eric
Prescription Hugs.
is,
Shout out to Prescription Hugs. I
yeah.
always joke that I'm like his biggest fan.
I love Eric. His music, yeah, sorry, continue.
Oh, no, no, go ahead. I was just gonna say that like the vibes that morning were absolutely immaculate. Like you're right. Like there are people who were like so tired or like people who were just like out of it, but like you couldn't help but like dance.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you weren't dancing, you couldn't help to just like go out there and like connect with another human, much like me and you did whenever we connected while we were dancing to his music. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was awesome. I loved that morning. I'll never forget that morning.
Yeah, because I remember watching you fire dance and hula hoop all night, and I was like, "That's amazing." I can't imagine how many hours or how many times you guys have to practice, or when you're doing the fire dancing, how often you get burned. I was like, "Oh my God, it's rigorous," and so during prescription hugs, Eric set. I saw you walking past me cleaning up, and I was like, okay, I need to tell her that she did an amazing job. And then that's when you briefly described about how you got into hula hoops. So when we finally got reconnected a few weeks later, I was like, oh, okay, I definitely want to ask you more about that.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, it does take a lot of practice. Obviously, you're playing with a very dangerous element, and there's a lot. I mean, I guess there's a lot that goes to it, but also not. I always tell people that you can't really teach the flow state. The flow state comes to you, and everybody's flow state is different, and everybody's flow is unique, which is what I really love about it. Um, and we do get burned a lot. That's like the number one question we get is like, don't you get burned? And it's like, well, yes, but that's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like whenever you're a painter and you're gonna get paint all over your stuff, it's like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But um yeah, I started hula hooping how 4 years ago, about 4 years ago. Um I learned about the dance through a mutual friend, and I saw her dancing. Shout out to Jocelyn, who's hot like Joss on Instagram, in case
Mm-hmm.
y'all listening. But yeah, she really inspired me through her flow, and I just really, really wanted to try it. And my sister got me. It was weird. It was definitely like a manifestation, like moment where it was my birthday, and my sister got me a hula hoop like as a joke gift. Like she's like, I just got it for you because you're always going to your parties, and I figured maybe you might want to bring like a hula hoop to your party and like just have fun with your friends dancing with it. And then sure enough, the next weekend I went to Nocturnal with my one of my close friends, and there was a hoop workshop there, and he asked me, he's like, are you gonna go to like learn some hoop stuff? And I almost didn't go because
Oh.
it was like early in the morning. It was like at 9 or 10 in the morning, and obviously if you stay up like the whole night before, like you know something else is going on that you want to go to, or do you just want to like stay at camp and hang out with your friends? But I definitely had a moment where I was like, no, I'm gonna go because I really do want to learn like what to do with this thing. I have it and I want to dance with it, but I don't know what to do. So the hoop class that I took was with Amanda Lee. Her name is Miss Hoopty Doo on Instagram, and um, she hosted it with I can't remember what her actual name is. I just know her Instagram handle is Hoopalala, I think is how you say it. They're both really amazing dancers. But yeah, that's honestly really how I got started, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I don't know what it was, but I just finally felt like I found something that I love and something that I want to learn. Because whenever you're older and you're learning new things, there's a lot of things that could hold you back because you don't think that you're good enough, or you don't have faith in yourself that you could like even really learn how to excel at it or anything, or even you pick something up and then you just like don't really do anything with it after a couple tries. But there was just something about this art form that just pulled me in, and I just kept going for it. And it was a lot of looking stupid in the beginning, and it was a lot of practices in the park by myself with like strangers being like, what the heck is this girl doing, like in the park with her hula hoops, and just throwing them in the air and throwing them around my body. And it definitely has been a crazy journey. And with that, with the love that I found with hula hooping and dancing, I just found my love of flow arts all together. And then that is how I eventually got introduced to fire spinning and the birder culture and these desert events that we go to. So that's kind of a little bit of, oh my gosh, sorry, you can like see my cat
No, you're
in the
good.
background. But
How, how many cats do you have?
I have two, Luna and Rufus, and
Uh,
they just are obsessed with me. Like everything that I'm doing, they're always just right there, like looking at me, like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just sitting at my desk. Like I'm not doing anything too special." Yeah. Anyways,
mhm.
so yeah, I mean that's kind of like a brief history of like my hoop journey. And yeah.
Because when we talked at the desert, you mentioned about how hula hoops saved your life. Would
Mhm.
you be comfortable or open sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, so whenever I like first found hula hooping, I feel like I was like in a stage of life that like any like 25-year-old girl would be in. Is I just like was always hanging out with my friends and partying like in bars or like at random people's houses until like all hours of the morning, like getting really heavily like into like drugs and alcohol. And I already have been fighting with anxiety and depression since I was a young teenage girl. So whenever you get older and like all those other things come into the picture as well, along with like your mental health, things were just really going downhill for me. I just like really didn't have like, I felt like I didn't really have a purpose. I felt like I didn't even really have like an actual solid group of people in my life who actually cared about my well-being. They just liked to party with me, and they liked me because I was fun and I was loud and I was silly. And well, that's all fine, but like at the end of the day I would just come home and just be like, what am I doing? Like I don't have any direction. Like, and I was really really depressed. And I was also in a really bad relationship that was just like really negative and just not a good relationship. And then that finally ended. And um I felt like I just needed like something. Like I just needed something to like give me hope, and something to give me like a purpose and a direction, and just something to like rehab, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like to um have faith in myself again, because back then I really really didn't think that I could amount to anything, and I really didn't have faith in myself, and I was just an overall negative person. And I found hula hooping, and I feel like with finding hula hooping, one, it made it so that I could finally get out of those relationships that were not serving me and were not even really healthy for me, and were just hindering me and hurting my mental health even more than it already was. And so it really was just having something that helped me have faith in myself again, like knowing that I could pick up a new hobby and learn it, and not only learn it, but along the line actually becomes like good at it and respected for it. That's why I say hula hooping saved my life, is because like if I didn't find it, like I had no idea where I would be right now. And I mean, who's to say, maybe I might have found something else, but I'm happy that I found hula hooping. Like, that is, I'm just really, really grateful that I was even introduced to it. I'm really grateful for the people that I have met along the way because of it. Um, and it also was something that helped me um, actually like learn how to like be by myself, because I feel like a lot of the time whenever you are struggling with anxiety or depression or like any type of like mental illness, you tend to cling on to people, even if it's people who are bad for you.
Mm.
And that's exactly what I was doing. I was just clinging on to like all of the wrong people and sucking them dry of their energy, and vice versa. You know, they were sucking me dry as well, and it just like wasn't healthy. And like, since I had like this hobby that was like just mine, like for the time being it was just mine because no one I hung out with did it, and just something that I wanted to do myself and to finally have faith in myself to do something, I started spending more time alone. Instead of like going to the bars and hanging out, I would like go to the park and hoop, or I would go to like a dance class, or I would go to meet up with like some new flow friends that I either met on like social media or I met like at a hoop class, and they're like, oh, we have a flow thing. So I started to kind of reprogram my brain into like thinking that I needed to always be at the bar with my friends. Cause like, I kid you not, I'm not even exaggerating. We lived at the bar. There was like a bar down the street, and like we lived there, and it was like, it was such a refreshing change of pace to be doing something productive for myself and to be doing something good for myself and healthy, and to finally like actually have some solid time by myself and have solitude, which is something that I was very uncomfortable with in the past. But now I feel like whenever it's just like me alone with my hoops or me alone with any of my flow props, like I feel very whole, and um I feel content, and I don't feel as much anxiety as I did before with being alone. So that is why I always say like hula hooping saved my life, and it's like it's such a statement where it sounds very extreme, but it's very true. It's a very true statement, as extreme as it is. So
Hmm. You bring up a really good point about being okay to be by yourself and not depending on other people to kind of save you or be your source of happiness.
mhm.
What would be advice you'd give to people that might be struggling with that and don't know how to make the first steps of learning to be okay by themselves, or maybe are struggling with finding something positive or productive for them to kind of start allowing that space to happen?
Well, the biggest piece of advice that I feel like I could give people is, if you are feeling like very alone most of the time anyways, even though you have relationships like in your life or friendships, or there's like certain people that you do latch onto because you don't know how to be alone. If those relationships make you feel alone already, then you can kind of take that fear that you have of being alone out. Well, I mean, don't take it out because you know it's gonna be there, but um, honestly, I know it sounds cheesy, but really just try really hard to have faith in yourself that you can do it. Especially if you are feeling like, I don't know how to get out of this cycle. I don't know how to quit drinking alcohol. I don't know how to like say goodbye to this friend that I've been like partying with for years, and now I have to say goodbye to them. Just really believe in yourself that you can do it. I reached out to my family members, and I told them like what I was going through. Um, and that's also, I guess, really try to find some of the people that really do you know that do love you, like your family members, or even if it is like a close friend that you've had for like years, and you know they've always been there, but you just haven't really talked to them because you were distracted by all these other things. Just try to find, because you are going to need some type of support system. Just make sure that that support system is people who really do add to your life and who actually do really love and care about you, because there is a difference between people who really love and care about your well-being and the people who are just there, you know.
Hmm.
So I mean, that was like one big thing for me. I was living with my cousin and my aunt at the time, and having my aunt there with me kind of as like my mom figure, like really, really, really helped me a lot. Just knowing that there was somebody there that was looking out for me. And then if you don't have those people, I mean, I live alone now. I have a roommate, but like I live without my family now. And so if you're out there and you live by yourself, or if you live with just a roommate and it's not a family member, um, I would just I would suggest just reaching out to your family, and just like, if you're going through something really hard, just letting them know and being open about what you're going through. And if you really, really can't do that, because I know that there are a lot of people out there who just can't, then you really do have to put all of that faith into yourself, then that you can get out of this. Even if right now you can't even see the picture, look at yourself in the mirror every day and tell yourself, I am this, like I am strong, I am going to get through this, I am beautiful, I am resilient, just like it sounds cheesy, but if you say that to yourself every day in the mirror, it comes true. It's manifestation. What you put out there in the universe will come back to you. um so yeah. I was just trying really hard to think of like actual good advice, instead of like, just believe, because like it's
Fake it till
not
you
that
make
easy.
it.
Yeah, and I mean there is always that like thing, like fake it until you make it, but you really do have to have faith in yourself and love yourself and have that time by yourself. Also get a pet. Like
Mm,
like I know for me, my cats really helped, because I was wanting to like spend a lot more time like at home with like my pets. And now I am like a crazy cat lady, but I'm okay with it, because I would way rather be a crazy cat lady than be some like, I don't know, uh, to be who I was before,
right.
basically.
Mhm.
But yeah, get a pet. I don't and if you have a pet, then spend more time with your pet. Your pet loves you and they need you. Like if you
Mhm.
want unconditional love, your pet loves you unconditionally.
Animals are so amazing, just especially whether you're like a cat or dog person, but your pet's gonna love you regardless. And just like scratching or cuddling with them, it makes me feel so much better. I don't have pets right now, but anytime I go to like my friend's place and they have pets, I just like try to soak up as much time as I can with them. to
Totally.
kind of piggyback off on your advice of like manifesting and telling yourself like affirmations daily. For me, what helped was starting to read and kind of watching videos on YouTube or whatever of like TED Talks and just kind of ways for me to like tangibly soak in. Here are things you can do to kind of get yourself out of like negativity, or if you're stuck and you don't know what to do. For me, yeah, the books helped so much. And now if they have exercises, I write them down in my journal and I try to do them every day, like affirmations or list 3 things you're grateful for. Or for me, I have really bad anxiety, which ends up becoming depression when I don't solve it right away. And so now I try to like think, okay, can I do anything about this right now? Is it out of my control? Okay, if it is, then I can't stress about it because it's not going to do anything. Could you talk, if you're comfortable, share more about with like anxiety when you're younger, and because anxiety is a little bit different for everybody. So I was wondering, how did that affect you? What was it like? And now getting older, how did that kind of like go with your like growth?
So, whenever I was a lot younger, I didn't even really know what anxiety or depression was. I come from a family where, like, mental health and things like that were not spoken of. It was very much like toughen up, like stiffen up your upper lip, like don't cry, like, and if you cry, wipe those tears and get back up. Like, it was very much like a tough love environment growing up. So whenever I did have these feelings of anxiety, I didn't even know what they were. And there were even moments where like I thought that I was like dying because it felt like there was like two hands clenched around my heart. And I do remember my first feelings of feeling depressed because of this anxiety that I have had held on to my entire childhood, and didn't even know what it was and didn't know what to do with it. So, you know, it is unfortunate to say that I would succumb to like self harm and to like self harm thoughts, and um, you know, but I feel like as I got older and you know, met more people, and I don't even really remember the first, I think the first time I even knew what anxiety was the first time I did go see a therapist, because I finally told my mom at 14 years old, like, Mom, something's not right. Like, I don't think that I am like the same as everybody else. I think that my thoughts are different, and I don't think my thoughts are good. And like, I need to go see someone. And she was shocked. She had no idea that I had been feeling this like my whole life. And she had no idea that I was feeling very overwhelmed. And um, so I did go see a therapist, and whenever she had described to me, like, you know, like, you're going through having like extreme anxiety, and it's kind of like what you said about how whenever you have extreme anxiety and you don't confront it or don't do anything about it, it does turn into a depression. Because she told me, she's like, um, you know, she's like, I don't even think that you are really like a depressed person. When I talk to you, you do really seem like very high spirited and full of life and full of energy. She's like, I just think that you have all of these things built up, um, that is making you feel very overwhelmed because you just don't know what to do with it or do about it. Um, and I wish that I could say that I learned how to deal with it then at that early of an age, but I didn't. I stopped seeing my therapist like shortly after that situation happened, and I kind of grew up into like my older adolescence, into like my early 20s, and you know, I turned 21, so that's whenever everything I did, I turned to just like drinking. Um, but you know, the anxiety was still there, even if I didn't confront it. It was always there, and I feel like that's honestly why I was always drinking, and why I was always like trying to find something to do, and not even allowing myself like time to just like be at home and to like rest my body, and to like eat good food that is good for my body, and like put something else into my body that is like not substance. And um so I feel like as I got older, I still had that anxiety, but I didn't confront it like at all. I just kind of tried to ignore it, and I tried to push it down, and I tried to act so hard. I tried so hard to act like I was just like the toughest being on the planet, and that I didn't have emotions, which is ridiculous now looking back. But you know, back then I just really, really did not know any better. Um, but something that you had said earlier about like control, and just like knowing the things that you are in control of versus the things that you're not, because I feel like that's where a lot of the anxiety came to me, is whenever I started to feel like this lack of control in my life. Like, I can't control what another person like does or says, or I can't control like the situation at hand. I was very much out of control. I didn't have any control or grasp on anything that was going on in my life. um and so that's like where the anxiety would like kick in. But you know, up until recently, really up until maybe like the last 1 to 2 years, is whenever I had learned that, like, to let go of those things that I can't control, and to focus on the things that I can, and to have that realization that the only thing that I really do have full 100% control over is me, and me and my mind and my heart and my soul and this body that I live in, you know, like, those are the things that I have control over. So I guess honestly, that's really why I started to do a lot of the inner work, and to confront my anxiety head on and confront the depression head on. Because unfortunately, I had been self harming probably all the way up until maybe like 3 ago, I want to say. So I think that that was like around that time whenever I had realized that um, I needed to do something about it. And yeah, so sorry, I hope that didn't go too off subject
Oh
there with
no.
that.
No,
But
that's good insight.
yeah, so yeah, it's crazy. Like, even talking about it, my heart's like, "Oh my god, like, it's crazy to talk about it just because I've spent so much time in my life not talking about it." Um which is why earlier one of my things to suggest was to reach out to somebody who like you trust and somebody who really cares about you and loves you, because it's not good to not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
um, it is good to like say out loud, I have anxiety. Like, oh my God, I said it. Like, did anyone hear me? Yeah, like it's okay. Like, if it's who you are, that's fine. Like, confront it head on. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's all about your mindset. The power of the mind is insane and it's crazy, and you can reprogram it, and you can have control over your thoughts. And that's where the affirmations come into play. And reading books that have really good like insights and affirmations and writing them down. And I didn't want to say like meditating and yoga because I thought it sounded very cheesy, and I feel like so many people say that, but honestly, it really does help. Just have like a good habit that you pick up,
Mm-hmm.
like every day, even if it's just 15 to 20 minutes of your day. If you have like that one good habit, then it'll start rolling other into like an effect of you having more good habits. And the more good habits you have, and the more you take care of yourself, and the more that you love yourself, the better your mindset will be. The better that your mindset will be, the easier it is for you to reprogram it. So that way you can, I guess you could say, get out of that funk. But I don't really believe in getting out of the funk. I feel like, if you do have anxiety and depression, it is always going to be like a part of you, but
Mm-hmm.
it's up to you what you are going to do about it. And I guess for me, one day I was like, fuck it, I'm going to pick up this hula hoop.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple years later, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to light it on fire. And, now here I am a couple years later. So,
You bring up a lot of really important like points because again, kind of going back to where you grew up, where you couldn't really talk about your mental health because it was okay, suck it up, or you're like toughen up, you're okay. And I think a lot of people, especially I think towards like males mostly, like they're taught like don't cry, like suck it up, be a man. And then for me, I grew up with a single dad, so not to that extreme, but like if I hurt my finger playing football or stuff, he'd be like, you're fine, you're good. But when it comes to like talking about mental health, not a lot of people do talk about it because I think there's such a tabooness, or people are afraid to burden people or don't want to be annoying or bother anyone. For me, I always bottle everything in until the point I break down and crack. And so this January I started going to therapy for the first time, and it's showed me a lot of how important it is to talk about it, because one, it's just healthy. You need to express yourself. Like just ruminating and bottling up everything doesn't help. Just I realize it's not productive as much as you think it is, that you don't want to bother anybody. You're just hurting yourself at the end because nothing's getting done. And so what do you bring up, like finding healthy habits? For me, I realized it was painting and doing like mixing music or going outside, or like I do a little bit of gloving and poi. So like now I'm trying to, thanks to this pandemic, I have more time to kind of do more healthy things that I know are like positive and kind of like spark my artistic energy.
mhm.
And kind of the whole meditation or yoga. Right now I'm trying to figure out what kind of meditation I like. I think because I have my anxiety still, that prevents me from wanting to sit down and just be still, because I'm like, oh, I'm not being productive. I could be doing something else that's more important. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, like just be present, mindfulness, like learn how to, just be still. And for me, I think the closest thing to like my meditation or like my happy place is doing some type of art, because and then like I finish a piece and like, okay, I was productive, I was able to create something. Or like editing and doing these podcast episodes, I'm like, okay, I was able to do something better. And so part of the reason why again this podcast I'm having is because there's things of like no one wants to talk about because they feel like they can't. And so I think it's really important, and want to say thank you for opening up and talking about it even when it is uncomfortable, because I, for me, I sure didn't realize how important it is.
Mhm. Yeah, me neither. I'm on the same boat too, where I didn't even realize like how much like my mental health declined because I was in an environment and just in a society in general where we're taught to not talk about it, and we're taught to shove it down and to be tough and like, oh, you're fine. And it's like, I think that like one of the most important things that has become hopefully a little bit more normalized, especially with this pandemic that we are going through and with how hard last year was, I saw this new kind of energy happening where a lot of people were coming forward and saying like the things that they were going through and kind of like stepping back into their power and being really brave to share like their story and to put that message out there like it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to talk about why you're not okay and to work through those things, because it wasn't normalized before. And it really is like it's all up to like this next generation, you know, to like change the norm of it, because I feel like we also as our generation has been doing a lot of work with it. And I don't know, I've seen like so many things like, you know, on social, mainly on social media, because we've all just been connected over social media through this last year. And I just noticed so many more people coming forward and saying like, you know what, guys, like, guess what, like, this is the person like who you think I am, but like this whole time I've really been going through this. And it's just like, wow, like you really just like don't really know what somebody is going through because it's not normalized to talk about the things that you're going through. And even like therapy hasn't been normalized until up until recently either.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard from like multiple of my close friends, um, that have told me like, oh, I just started going to therapy. So now, you know, going to therapy is being normalized and, you know, working through your stuff. And I just think that we need to continue moving forward with that energy and to keep normalizing it and to keep reminding people that they're not alone and that most likely what they're going through, somebody else is also going through too. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay and it's okay to be who you are. If you're out there and if you have anxiety, it's okay that you have anxiety. You are still you and you're still an amazing person and you're still, you know, out there living your life. But you know, it's okay to come forward and say like, I'm having like these issues with my anxiety. I feel like my biggest problem, um growing up was I never knew how to ask for help, and I still struggle with it to this day. When I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, I've learned to ask myself like, why do you feel anxiety? Is it because like you're overwhelmed? Like, do you need help with something? And most of the time I'm like, yes. And I'm like, why don't you ask for help? Like, there's just something about me where I'm like, I need help with this, but I don't open up my mouth and say, like, I need help to like my friend who's sitting there right next to me and is like, do you need help with something? And I'm like, no. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, actually, like, I do. But it's like, it's always been so hard for me to just say, like, you know, I do need help with this. And as soon as you find the strength just to even say that, that's like the first step forward. So,
That's so true. For me, again, I never liked talking about my feelings or telling friends, hey, I'm having an anxiety attack right now, or I'm really depressed. I'm kind of having not safe thoughts. I need an outlet just for someone to listen. For
hmm
me, I think the hardest thing, well, I'll rephrase that. The thing I've learned the most, or like the biggest kind of breaking point so far in therapy, is understanding why I'm feeling the way I am and how to ask for help. And so now with like my boyfriend or with whoever, if I'm not feeling okay, if I'm upset or I'm struggling something, now I'm like learning how to talk to myself and be like, okay, why are you feeling this way? Okay, what are your needs right now? What can people do to help you? And how can you communicate that? And I think it's really important to kind of have a moment like dialogue with yourself and realize, okay, what are my needs and how can I tell people what my needs are so they can help me?
hmm
Yeah.
yeah, that's very true. That's definitely a very important tool, along with having anxiety, is really just learning how to reach out and also to address your needs too, because sometimes I feel like a lot of the time we're feeling the things that we're feeling and you're like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And it's like, that's a lie. Like, you do know why you feel this way, but you just haven't addressed it. You haven't confronted it
Mm.
because it's scary too. And so I just think it's like, for me personally, it's funny, like whenever I do get into those moods and I'm like, I don't know why I've been like this lately. And like, I'll tell my friends, like, I don't know why, but for some reason lately I've been like this. And it's like, I really do know the reason why. I just don't know how to confront it yet, or I haven't confronted it yet, because it's scary. Those ugly monsters inside of you, the darkness, like, nobody wants to go there. It's terrifying, but it's worth it. It's 100%
Mm-hmm.
worth it to go down into the darkness and to deal with those monsters head on, because once you do confront it and you learn those things about yourself and you do the inner work, that is where the transformation comes in your life, and that's where the manifestation happens for you. Like, things that you've wanted all along in your life, all of a sudden you have them and you're like, how did I get this? And it's because you did it, you did the
Mm-hmm.
work. So anyways,
Ooh, okay, let's see. So, what are some of the biggest things you've noticed from now, like before, kind of dealing with anxiety and depression, and then now you were able to find a really good outlet, and now not as in a dark place anymore, and kind of understanding the like being self-aware of like, okay, I need to confront these demons, or I need to confront why I'm feeling this way. What are some of the biggest changes or differences you notice between those two states in your life?
um the biggest change that I have seen with myself is just like my overall, like, happiness and like joy and like contentment and like those emotions that come into play in life. I feel like I feel a lot lighter. I don't feel like as heavy as I did before, and I don't feel um as like completely lost, because I mean, obviously I do have those moments still where I do feel like a little bit lost and like, what am I doing in life? But I mean, we all have those.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess just the biggest change is just, since now that I have the awareness of, like, my thoughts and, my emotions, and I guess just knowing that I really do have the power to change. I guess, like, reprogramming, really. Like, right now I'm going through a really, really big transitional phase in my life because I'm trying to reprogram my brain and reprogram my thoughts. And the biggest change that I've seen is that I actually, like, ask myself, like, why I am feeling the way that I am feeling. Because before, I used to never do that. I used to never actually, like, confront myself and confront my emotions. I would just, like, feel them and either feel ashamed and like push it down, or I would self harm, or I would, drink to the end of the bottle, or like, just do something that's just like really not good. But now, like, whenever I feel something and I'm getting like kind of frustrated or feeling kind of down, or I start to feel like, you feel like the shift, like whenever you're starting to not feel good, whenever you were feeling good for so long. And so now I think the biggest change that I've seen in myself is just knowing how to ask myself why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and to be honest about it, write it down and like confront it. And I've seen like a really, really big change in my relationships too. Just like overall, like the friendships that I've made, and just like people who have, like, friends who have become family. And it's crazy because, like, for so long, I felt like people just would just come in and out of my life just like so fast. Like, I would lose them almost as fast as I would like gain them. And that would also like make me feel very anxious too, is just like, why can't I find anyone in my life to stick around, and like, does no one love me, and in reality it's like, um there's a quote that will always stick with me that's like, you'll only accept the love that you think that you deserve. So, this whole time in my life, people are just coming like in and out, and the reality is that I would just always be pushing people away because I didn't want to do the work to have like a good relationship, to work on myself so that I can maintain a good relationship with somebody else. So that's also a really drastic change that I've seen in my life, that I actually do have like an inner circle now of like actually really good, genuine people, and being able to actually maintain those relationships and to not push people away, and also be honest with them, like instead of like lying about who I am or lying about how I'm feeling about something. I've found that my relationships have gotten so much stronger because I know how to go up to a close friend and be like, can I talk to you about something that I just really need to get off my mind? Or, hey, you know what? I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've just been feeling kind of weird around you. And I just would like to talk about it and just to, work through it because I care about you and I care about this relationship. So, that's a really really big change that I've seen in my life, and especially now that I learned how to be by myself. Because like, and I know I talk about that a lot, but I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. Like, I could not be alone before. Like, it would gave me so much anxiety. It made me so scared and so depressed to be by myself. And now I love being alone so much, and it's crazy. But now that I love being by myself and I don't like need people, I feel like my relationships have gotten better because I'm not just like sucking the energy dry out of like these people in my life, or vice versa. I'm not letting them suck the energy out of me either, because I actually do appreciate just like the energy that I just have by myself. So
Hmm.
it's just transformed all of my relationships. And just my overall health, really. Like, I actually cook now. I used to never cook. Like, I used to just always eat out, eat gross fast food. Like, my body was just not in good shape, and just, now I actually care about like taking care of myself. And I've actually found like a love and joy for cooking, which I just think is like crazy because I did not know how to cook a couple years ago. Like, at all. I knew how to make maybe like frozen waffles, and like that was it. Like,
Hmm.
but um yeah, anyways. Sorry, I feel like I just keep like, you asked me a question and I'm like, ah, and then
Oh
I'm like, oh,
no.
okay. Bring
No,
it
no,
back.
no.
Bring it
No,
back. Mhm. Yeah, I'm like laughing because as you're talking, I'm like, oh God, I need to take a gulp of wine for this one. Like getting into like the relationships talk, but yeah, I actually was just thinking about that right before you said it. So it's like
Mm.
you were reading my mind, but whenever you have that energy where you are okay with confronting these things and like confronting these people, and you don't have to do it in a combative way. It could literally just be like, hey, can I ask you a question? Or hey, do you have a couple minutes to talk because I need to talk to you about something important, you know? So you don't even have to go in like guns blazing. And I feel like that's also important too, is to like not be defensive and really just explain like how you feel. But with being that person and bringing that energy to the table, you will attract this people who have the similar energy, and it will also weed out the people who don't have that energy.
Mhm.
um, and it's kind of heartbreaking, like it really is, because I know me personally, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there too. Like I had to say goodbye to a lot of people in my life who were I was really close with. A best friend, who like our friendship just wasn't a good friendship, and it was super toxic, and she was like definitely somebody where I would like go to her to be like, can we please just like talk about this, like what we're going through, and she was just not having it. So eventually I had to let her go, and it was heartbreaking because she was my best friend for like 4 or 5 years, and I actually had to say goodbye to her. Same thing with my ex-boyfriend. Like, you know, I had to um, finally let go of that relationship too, because I would always try to like talk about boundaries and talk about like, you know, things that I would need out of this relationship and vice versa. And finally realizing that he didn't need the relationship at all. So I was like, what am I doing here? So, and that was like a heartbreak too. And there's been like a couple other people. Um, I think it is very unfortunate too whenever it's family members, like whenever it's people who are like actually like your blood and like your
Mhm.
relatives. Luckily, I've been able to rekindle a lot of my relationships with my family, even though they're not like the most like mentally healthy people. And um, but um, yeah. Anyway, sorry. I was like trying to think of where I was going with all of that, but
You're
but
fine.
no, like basically where I was going with that was just that in this like transitional phase, I think I just read something that says like, you know, you're on the right path if you're losing relationships,
Mm.
because it means that you are growing and you're transforming and you're moving forward. And the only reason why you are losing those relationships or friendships is because, you know, they're just not on the same wavelength as you. They're not on the same path as you. And it's also okay like to say goodbye to a friendship. Like I have a lot of different friendships where we used to hang out every day and we used to talk, and we don't even talk every day anymore, but every once in a while we just check in with each other, and they're just like, hey, just want to let you know that I've been thinking about you. I've been watching your videos. You're doing great. And like, or vice versa. I'll be like, hey, like just checking in. And it's like, it's okay um, to, to say goodbye to friendships. Like, even if it's not like a breakup, like you're breaking up with your friend and you're like letting them go and cutting them off. It's okay if you met somebody and you only hung out for like a month or two and then you part ways. That's something that I actually just learned that has brought me like so much like peace in my heart, because I used to always be so heartbroken over losing friends. But
Mhm.
sometimes you are just meant just to cross paths, and then your paths go in different directions. So it's okay to say hello and say goodbye, you know? Um, but yeah, just um, yeah, I guess that's it. Sorry, I was trying to get like the
Oh,
next
no,
thought.
you're good. Something my dad always tells me, and I think it makes so much sense, is people in your life for a season, reason, or a lifetime. And so
Mhm.
even if those people come out of your life, you did learn something, good or bad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, exactly. I think that that is such an amazing thing too. Like if you think of like a story that you read when you were a kid, or even like a cartoon like show or movie where there's always like the main character and he's going through like a journey, and he meets like so many people along that way that either help or hinder the journey. And it's crazy because I feel like that is very much like the people that we meet in our life, is kind of like you're going along your path and you stop with this one person, and they serve their purpose and you serve your purpose with them, and then you keep going your journey and they keep
Mm-hmm.
going their journey. And that's something that keep have I have to remind myself. It's an important thing to remind myself, because I am very much like, I just love people, and I love my people too. Like whenever I meet them and I'm like, oh, you're my person, like I attach to people like very, very easily. So um to learn how to unattach myself and just to like have someone serve their purpose and vice versa is such a powerful thing too. And you give yourself like so much power by doing that, by just having that awareness, I guess. But
Definitely.
yeah.
Is there anything else you would want to tell listeners out there? Any advice?
um Pick up a hula hoop. I tell everybody that. Well, no, it doesn't have to be a hula hoop per se, but if there is something out there that you have always wanted to do or wanted to try, but you're scared, or the reason why you're scared is because you're afraid of looking dumb because you're going to be a beginner, and that's the point of learning something, is that in the very beginning you're not good at it. Don't be scared to be bad at something for a little while, because along the way you just never might know what you might find. And it's really crazy what happens whenever you do take your power back um after being, going through the darkness for so many years. That's very much what my story is that I was just kind of trudging through the darkness all through childhood, all the way up until I was like about 25 years old, so just a couple years ago. um so I think that's my biggest piece of advice that I would give anybody, is just that, like, if you have something out there that like your heart is like calling towards, listen to your heart. That's why people say like listen to your heart, because it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
lie. Like, try the thing, and if you're not good at it at first but you love it, keep trying, because one day you will be good at it if you put in the time and effort. And love yourself, have faith in yourself, say those daily affirmations to yourself. If you want to be a dancer, tell yourself every day you're a dancer. If you want to be an artist, tell yourself every day you're an artist. And you will attract the people in your life that you need in order to manifest those dreams. And you'll actually probably even manifest those dreams just yourself, with having that faith in yourself. And if you're struggling with anxiety and depression out there, I'm telling you that even just doing that, picking up a hobby, um, uh, like a productive, healthy hobby, and working on it for even just 15-20 minutes a day, it works wonders on your mental health, your physical health, just overall well-being. And yeah, that's
Yeah, to piggyback off that last point, for me, when I'm stuck, I'm stuck. Like nothing's happening, especially when you're like a writer, like a creative person. It's
mm-hmm,
hard for me to like force myself to do something. So something I've started doing to kind of get myself out of it, and now I've realized I feel so much better, is if I'm writing a script for a film, like okay, at least a page. If not every day, once a week. And now I'm like, okay, let me do at least a few lines here and there. And then over time, you're going to realize how much you've created. So the same goes to a hobby, meditation. Everything takes work and practice. And with anxiety and depression, it's not too late to get your power back and to get help. Like I'm turning 24 next month and barely started going to therapy this past January. So it's never too late. Like just don't let yourself think you're too far along to get help, because you're always at the right place at the right time for yourself to get the help you need.
exactly. I 100% agree with that.
Thank you. Well, I think that wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. It's nice to like get to know you better. I've only seen you twice briefly at these
Yeah.
fun events, but it's really nice talking and hanging out with you.
Yeah, it was super nice. Thanks so much for having me. This is my first time ever being on a podcast, so
Mhm.
it's an awesome experience doing this with you. And I'm glad that it was with you and with talking about this subject because this subject is not easy to talk about. And even me, like I talk about it every once in a while with friends, but even now I never really have just like openly been like out as a anxious person, you
Mhm.
know? So I'm really grateful for you. Thank you for inviting me on here.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Well, again, here, cheers,
For the
Marky.
rest of your wine.
Yes, you too. All right, thanks, guys. Well, thanks again. I'm gonna link her Instagram down below. She has amazing videos and pictures of her doing fire dancing hula hoops. So if you ever want inspiration to get into that, definitely check out her Instagram. All right, thank you, Marky.
See you again. Bye.
Bye.